Okay, thank you for listening to your favorite interior design podcast. This is Stephanie Stuart, your host, and today I am so excited to have our first guest, Alex Cross, here from Cross Construction, Utah, on the phone here with us. Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's good to
Good.
be.
And why don't you just tell us a little bit about Cross Construction and yourself?
Yeah, sounds good. So started cross construction 6 years ago. At the time, I'd been doing construction for about 10 years. Really just reached a point in my career where I thought the principles that I had in home building and even just customer service, it was more important for me to take the risk of trying to do this on my own, so that I could do it my way versus working for another company and following their policies and procedures and how they want to handle things. So I kind of took the jump, and it's highs and lows like most things in life, but just rolling past 6 years in January, and I feel like we're really kind of building a name here in Utah. And started out with I finished half of a basement, half of the way was my first project as a general contractor. And now we've done stuff as big as 5 million and over 14,000 square feet. So really been able to just hit the ground running. And of course, the market, has done well enough over that 6 year span that we've been able to capitalize on that. But yeah, just excited to keep growing and keep building this thing.
Awesome. Well, we've done a few projects together and we've done them a few different ways. One of them was a spec home, right? We had an investor and we just, picked out the specifications and didn't have a buyer in mind. That one was a lot of fun. We had a sport court over there, was up on the bench. And then we worked
that might be the most fun one. You didn't have the client there. We could just do our thing,
It was good. Well, that's one of the things about, being an interior designer and working with you, Alex, is that you already, right? You have a good eye for design and you do high-end custom homes and you have a good eye for design, but there comes a point, right, in your career where you just don't have the time to do it yourself. And what I've been, when I talk to a lot of general contractors, I kind of hear, and I, hear out in the industry, is that there comes a point, right, where you just don't have the time to do it, and you might not really want to do it. Some people enjoy doing that, but then there's a point where you need to get on with your business and grow and kind of work in your zone of genius. Totally. But why don't you tell everybody what kind of your favorite kind of project is, or what is your zone of genius at Cross Construction?
Oh gosh, put me on the spot like that.
Well, I can tell everyone what I think it is, but
yeah, well, it's all about the team, right? I mean, the projects that you do that have a lot of bumps in the road, those bumps can be so many different things, right? Supply chain issues, could be just problems with the municipality you're building in. But when you don't have the right team together, then these bumps can just be quite large and you can have a lot of problems. So in my experience, anytime we have builder, client, interior designer, architect, if that's the team from the beginning, from the inception of the project, those projects go the best. Now it's so rare that happens, right? Usually what happens is client will start with the plans with the architect, and they'll, get to a certain point and they'll say, hey, we need to have some general contractors look at this. So they send it out and they get whatever response. I mean, they're incomplete plans, so there's only so much that a general contractor can give them on feedback. And a lot of guys are just pulling numbers out of the air saying, yeah, right now we're building for 365 a foot. So let's just calculate your square footage and here's your preliminary budget, without really diving deep. And it's difficult to dive deep when the plans really aren't that well thought out.
Well,
but
so
they'll do that.
Let me interrupt you real quick there about the plans. So at a certain stage, do you find that clients, before they come to you, or when they get to that point when they want a bid from you, do you find that they're really surprised at how incomplete the plans are from that aspect to be able to ready to get bids?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer, because I think they will admit they know that it's not a complete set, and they'll say, we're not going to hold you to this number, and it's like, are you not going to hold me to that number? You know, because I've heard you say 3 times that you've got your preliminary budget now. And then every time you say it, I have to remind you it is preliminary. Um, there's just so many things not figured out, right?
Right.
And so, you know, if the interior designer was involved a little early on, you know, that can help, but that can also, depending on the interior designer. Now, we've worked together enough that, and I know how you operate, that I'm not going to put you in this category. But there is this other category where design just gets pushed so hard and elevated. And it's, you know, it's almost like the interior designer cares more about the portfolio of this project than really what the client's looking for.
Right.
You know, so anytime I talk about a team, you know, it's the right team. It's, you know, it's identifying what the at the root of this is the client, right?
Hmm.
And we need, as the industry professionals, we need to identify, what does this client really want? What is this project about? What is important to them? You know, do they need $65 square foot tile in their shower? You know, most don't, right? So you
What?
identify
What?
you identify who the client is, and then that way the team can feed off of that and build off of that.
Hmm.
Um, so like I was saying, you know, then they'll maybe decide on a general contractor, maybe not. They may go back through, finish the plans, then they'll get their comprehensive bids when they're structurally engineered, ready to go. But we still don't have specs, right? So we build budgets, we set allowances. We think they like, we saw some inspiration pictures of the style that they liked. So we're
But of
kind
the
of guessing,
65, the
hey,
$65 square foot tile inspiration pictures.
yeah. And so we set these allowances. We think we're, you know, doing a good job. And then, you know, they'll hire an interior designer while that's in for permit. And then it's like, well, then the interior designer doesn't have enough time to really go through and, you know, so you're just always kind of behind. You know, it's push, push, go, go, go. We want to build this house, you know, and
Mm.
everybody's kind of trying to work with that as best they can. And obviously there's varying, you know, pieces to this, and I'm kind of just naming one avenue that I've seen it go. Um, so in my mind, everything's always the best. These projects go the best when the earlier the team gets established and decided, right?
Right.
And it's hard because as a client, you're like, crap, I gotta trust this general contractor. I've heard so many crazy stories from my friends or colleagues or whatever about how their GC screwed them, and you know, so they want to protect themselves by not really hiring somebody until, you know, they've had a chance to vet out what it's going to cost. And
Hmm.
so I get all that, um but I have had those builds that I just was hired from the beginning, and there wasn't even plans. We didn't even have a contract to sign because we didn't have anything to agree on. So and then as we went through the process, we did it. And I mean, the one that we did for the Worthens, I mean, I wish you could have been involved earlier on, obviously. But once you got up to speed and then everything started to go, I mean, we hit a home run on that.
Right. And, you know, to fill everybody in on that project, that was one of our, well, a few projects ago. And again, it was one of my favorite projects. It was highly custom. It was, you know, we had, I remember 43 different hardware specifications, and I
Ah,
don't, I,
yes.
I am not advocating for this. Just, I mean, a little bit, but to everybody, there is, you know, this balance in interior design again of who's your client, right? And luckily enough, we were able to do all the wallpaper and all the colors, and you know, every bathroom a different color, and it was just so much fun for me. Also, every bathroom had different hardware, which is not common, right? In most houses,
Yeah.
you know, you would specify kind of a typical bathroom, give your, you know, as an interior designer, I would give my contractor a break and I would say, okay, we're going to do this plumbing in these main bathrooms, and then the master gets elevated, right? Or we're
Right.
going to do the same plumbing line, but maybe a different finish here. And we're going to keep it kind of similar so that it's
Right.
easy for you to manage your inventory and your purchasing. This was a different project. This was a fully custom, all the things. But that one, yeah, we did have to kind of stop because there was not a full complete set of plans. And once you started building, you didn't really have what you needed when you came to the
Right.
interiors. And then, you know, I was brought on board and kind of just said, we need to stop because I need to get up to speed. And I do it was unpopular, it was an unpopular response, but to be able to do it right and to get you what you
Right.
needed in time, we kind of had to do that. So sometimes it doesn't go as planned, but in the end, that was just an amazing project, and it was a beautiful project. And another great thing about our relationship and the way that we work together is that it was I'm here in Arizona, you were in Utah with the project, and there was no problems, with me being remote and not being able to be on
Right.
site to look at things.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I mean, realistically, I don't think that would have changed, other than it'd be cool to have you come out,
Yeah.
but I don't think it really would have changed any of the dynamics of the project. And again, but that also comes back to the 40 whatever hardware selections. I mean, it was clear and concise. I had a hardware schedule. I knew where all these were going, and it was labeled. It wasn't like it wasn't that challenging. I mean, it was more work to execute, right? Of course, but that's where having somebody like you on the project, we know we have the information. All
Mhm.
we have to do is execute. I mean, that's the best thing for a general contractor. Don't make us think. You're very kind to, say I have an eye for design, but just tell me what to do and let me go do it.
Right. Well, and I love that about you. I want to tell you what to do, right? I'm the interior designer. I want to tell you what plumbing to put where and when to do it. And I want you to just go do it. So it's my job to make it very easy for you to just go do it. And
Right.
part of the reason that, I started this podcast and that I wanted to have you on as one of our first guests is to kind of, again, touch on some things that you also mentioned before, is that some people are afraid to build a house. They're afraid to embark on that custom design project. They may have saved up and, or spend all this time just waiting and waiting and not taking the leap. And they're afraid to take the plunge because they have heard horror stories about other general contractors. Or maybe, I don't want to, diminish production home building, like building from, like buying a home from Pulte or Toll Brothers and going to a design center and picking from those
Right.
selections. But when you're building with a custom builder and interior designer, that you bring your own team, when you're bringing your own team to the project and having your own house drawn up by an architect, it is a whole different ball game. And literally the sky is the limit on selections and kind of understanding the process, right? And when you have an interior designer that's not at a design center from a production home builder, you do have all of the options, and your designer is going to help narrow them down for you
Right.
and only show you what you have told them that they wanted.
Yeah.
Now, when you hear, what would you say to people that maybe want to take the leap to have their own builder, but they're just a little bit timid about the process?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, to me, I just always just talk about it in terms of the team. Just find the right team. Maybe I'm not the best general contractor for you, Um, I probably am, but maybe I'm not.
Probably, I would say yes.
um, a lot of what I run into up here, and I think I've shared this with you before, is that a lot of people just think they can do their own interior design. And they're building a multi-million-dollar house, and it seems like, hey, why would I spend X dollars on an interior designer when, I know what I like, you know. And usually when I hear this, I kind of pause a little bit and just say, well, let's talk about really what an interior designer does, because you can look and say, I like this tile, I like these cabinets, I like this countertop, maybe they all go together when you're sitting just there in a showroom or in your living room, but you're not thinking about the lighting that's in that space and how it's going to be different, and how the paint colors are going to be different, your windows, and you start taking everything into account. And then and I've seen it time and time again where people just get overwhelmed. 2 3 things that together is one thing, but the whole design package is something really different.
Right.
And that's just the one side of it. The other side of it is how do you give your hand off to the builder? Do you expect that the builder is going to write up and track all of your selections? If they are, they're probably charging you for it, right? So somebody has to come up with this executable document, the construction documents, to be able to build from. and I've seen them like yours are extremely good and professional, and I've seen them be head scratchers, and you're sending emails and red lines trying to figure out, hey guys, a picture of tile doesn't tell me enough.
Mhm.
What is the name of it? Where's it from? What's the pattern direction?
Right.
So, so a lot of what I, and so I try to help educate a little bit, saying, hey, you're going to spend, somehow you're spending it. You're spending it in your own time, you're spending it in your own, mental capacity to handle it, right? Like it's a lot. Or you're creating more work for somebody else who probably should be billing for it as well.
Mhm.
Now, if it was like you said, you go to a production builder, you go to their design center, you've got three cabinets, three tiles, three, what, I haven't been in one of those in years, so I don't know what
I haven't
it's like
either.
anymore. But, you're going to have such limited, or it's going to be, hey, pick the platinum package and it's already all picked out. And when I was building production, a long time ago, it was like 80% of the homes we were building was just the model home all over again. People were just like, looks good. But then
Right.
you get into this custom world and it's like, yeah, these people now have already moved up a couple times. They went from that townhome or that small single family production, and then they maybe went semi-custom, or maybe they've gone full custom. And it's just a different ball game, because you have all these stories, these you remember all these experiences when you're like, hey, can we just move this wall a little bit? It's like, no. Hey, can I add a pot filler? No. Everything you were asking, you was just like, no, you can't do that. And so people come in to build custom and they think, hey, I'm going to do whatever I want now. And it's like, yeah, let's do that. But, let's have the right team when we do it. I'm not sure if I answered your question with that spiel, but
I don't know. It was very entertaining. So I don't.
okay.
No, I mean, all of, I mean, it's all, those are all the things, right? And I think that's funny what you just recently mentioned, though, is about people that have had experiences with production homes, or maybe remodeling their home that they've been in, and then they get told, no, you can't do this. And so then they come into custom and they're like, oh, we want it all, right? Well, there is a point where you can have it all. It's your time or your money. And it's understanding how to figure out, how do we give the client their, all of the things that they want, right? And
Right.
again, I think we've said this a million times, and we're probably going to say it a million more times, and this is the basis of all the great things, is that the planning phase in getting everybody on board in the beginning is the right way to do it. And the one way to help people get what they want and to be able to move the wall a little bit and move the window up and down is to be able to have that planning phase be a large part of their understanding of the timeline. And when we come on board to a project that's not already getting ready to be finished on the inside, is that we just take a pause and we look at our plans from a furniture first approach. And that's not to say that we're specifying the furniture, we're saying that we want this chair here or that there, but we say, how do people live in this space? Because we want to know where the sofa is going to be so that we can put a floor outlet in and not have cords running all over the house, right? And we want to specify upgraded outlets. What are they called? The ones with the USB in them? We want to make sure that you have USB outlets, in the main areas of the kitchen or the main charging stations, because then you don't have to find an adapter every time you need to charge something, right? So
Right.
where are you going to walk in? Where are you going to charge your phone at night? Where is your purse going, right? So understanding all of these things in the beginning is where the clients we can work with the architect and say, hey, these windows look really great from the outside, but they go to the floor and there's going to be a sofa there. So it's going to be real interesting looking at it from the outside in and seeing the back of a sofa, right? Are we good with that, or do we want to raise them up, right?
Right.
So anyways, well, that's to, just some things to get people thinking about if they are wanting to build custom, and what to think about in the very beginning processes. What are some things that you ask your clients about, when you're determining kind of how they live in the space or how they're going to, use the home? What are some questions that you go through on those first consultations?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, my goal is to just figure out who they are, right? And so I'll ask about their lifestyle, who's who's living in the home, um, and what's the purpose, or a lot of what I ask is, what do you not like right now? Well, usually the first thing I ask is, have you ever built before? Um,
Good question.
and most have, right? I think there's only been a couple that haven't built, and they had probably done some like remodeling before, so they had, but building a house is a monster, right? Especially a multi-million-dollar house. I mean, there's just a lot to do, a lot of decisions, and I did want to say just really quick, you're never going to have everything figured out in that planning stage, right?
Right.
The goal is to get it as close as you can, because stuff will come up,
Mhm.
you know.
Right.
So usually I'll ask, what's your lifestyle? Who's living in the home? What have you not liked? What are you looking to accomplish with this? What's your vision for it? I'm just asking these probing questions, and a lot of it's just stuff that comes up organically, because it's the energy of the room, it's the energy of the people that you're talking to. It's, every team's a little bit different, so you're just kind of, getting a sense of what their goals are, what their vision is for it, and then it becomes my job to execute that. And executing that looks a couple different ways. One, it's giving them suggestions or alterations that I think is in alignment with what they're doing. Sometimes that's to say, you don't need to do that, or do you really need to do that? I mean, we had so I just was awarded a project I'm really excited about, and we spent a good 25 minutes talking about the Costco door, the little doors that go from the garage to the pantry. So you
Mhm.
just,
Slide it
shove
in.
your groceries in, and then you walk around, go put them away, right? And we went through all this, maybe it should be a full height door, maybe we should, clip to the corner and put it on an angle, on a 45, and we're going through all this stuff, but through some probing questions, they talk themselves out of making any changes and leaving it the way that it was, right? So we go through exercises in figuring out what their goals are. And they, because I'm a home builder and I'm around this all day, every day, I have certain perspectives that even somebody who's built one or two times before isn't going to have.
Mhm.
Um, but they'll have some things they're very passionate about, because that's what's driven them to want to build.
Mhm.
So it's just, as long as you can have that synergistic relationship, where you're on the same team, uh, the project will go well, I guess. I think I'm deviating from your question. What other questions do I ask people? Well, if it's going to be a cool house, usually I'll ask if I can like come use it while they're out of town, and can I house sit for them.
Well,
Uh,
speaking of cool houses, word on the street is there's a photo shoot at your house right now.
oh, that's right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, Alex's house right now that he's in is his new home, and it's in Utah, and they are shooting right now for Arizona Tile to, use for their marketing. So that's a lot of fun that we got some of that in there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was all you. I greatly appreciate you coordinating it. I know I was slow to respond to some of those emails, so I'm glad it didn't just
Like,
fizzle
do you understand what's
up.
happening here? Arizona Tile wants to shoot our project. It's your house.
Yeah, well, and I think I told you they're going to another one I built after here, so we'll
Yep.
have two of my projects will have gone through. Um, so yeah, super awesome.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. That's the beauty of social media, right? So literally what we did is we tagged them in all these photos that we were posting of your home, and they eventually reached out and said, "Hey, that's a great picture, which tile is it of ours?" And we let them know and coordinated, said we want to shoot it, and I said yes. And then they said, we're looking for homes in the Salt Lake area. And luckily you had another one where you used a bunch of Arizona Tile. And Arizona Tile, honestly, not even a plug. I mean, they're not paying us for this. We're not, it's just,
Right, right,
but literally they're my go-to tile source,
totally.
honestly. And I don't
Yeah,
know how it came about that way, but it's so simple and so easy, and they have really great stuff. So
yeah. I mean, I could dive deep on that. I mean, because we have them all here, right? And
yeah.
I just, from the builder standpoint, the communication, the experience when I sent people in there. I mean, I went, obviously because it's all here, but I didn't have to go anywhere else, right? I
Right.
just went through and found everything that I liked, and it was easy, right? And then we ordered everything. It showed up. They called when it was ready. There was the one tile. I can't remember if it's this little teeny tiny black hexagon that I put
Hmm.
around my fireplace. And that ended up taking a long time, but it was an import product, so I couldn't be too upset about that. Um, but at the end of the day, like I will tell everybody, go to Arizona Tile first.
For
And if
sure.
you can't find something, then check out Emser, Bedrosians, or something else. Don't go to
Hmm.
Dow Tile at all costs. Stay away. I don't know if I should say that on your podcast, but
That's fine. You say whatever you want.
it's been a we've had problems there, but
Yeah.
simply put, Arizona Tile, if you can, if you go there first and you can find everything that you like, great.
Well, and that's another thing about, about finding a builder that has experience and somebody that is working on high-end homes or over $1 million now, and you know where to go and you have relationships with your
Yeah.
sources, and you know that you feel confident sending your clients into that showroom. You're not going to go to the showroom, and I have a rep. My rep is amazing. Also, when I do, specify and look for stuff online, it's very easy to use their website, but also they have trim pieces that go with their tile, right? So one of my biggest, I don't know, if I had a billboard and I could put anything on it, it would literally just be about specifying tile. It's like, what is your trim piece, right? What are you putting on if there's a curb on your shower, what goes on the top? You've got to manage the edges of your tile. You've got to know how high it's going up. You've got to know what the pattern it's going to be. But when you go to Arizona Tile, honestly, there are so many options. And then of course you can use a Schluter if you don't have a trim piece, but what are you going to use? So make sure that you tell your general contractor so they don't have to make the decision what to use.
It'll be the wrong decision if we do.
Yes, okay, that's great. It'll if you leave it up to the GC, it'll be the wrong decision. No, that's not the right message. But no, but totally, it really is great working with them. With suppliers, what about some of your other suppliers that you like working with that you've had some great experiences with?
Well, on the pretty stuff, you know, gosh, nothing really sticking out to mind. I mean, I can tell you my concrete supplier is great. I can tell you
Right.
my lumber supplier kept me getting lumber, when
Well,
allocations were, super dry. I was just in this like sweet spot of a size of company that I was just big enough that I
mhm.
could get wood, but I wasn't so big that I had to pick and choose which project it was going to.
That's
So
beautiful.
it worked out so well that we
Right.
were able to, I mean, the pricing obviously was astronomical, and those were some very difficult conversations to have with, I mean, even myself. I was building this house, um, and was surprised to spend an extra, double, almost triple what my budget was for
Well, we
lumber.
had conversations during
Yeah,
building your house, like, okay, well, we designed this and now lumber's gone up so much. What, should we make some, changes in other places? So,
right, right. But the fact that I was still able to get material was huge,
mhm,
because if I didn't, then I'm dead in the water, right?
right,
You're stuck,
right.
and that's the worst thing that can happen on a project. So a lot of gratitude for Builders First Source for keeping us going in that. A lot of it, for me, it's the relationships. Most of them that I really work on are those subcontractors.
Mhm.
It's the electricians, the plumbers, the finished carpenters. I mean, the labor pool can get really dry when our production is so big. So, again, not being a huge company, but being big enough and having these nice homes that I'm building, it's I've been able to establish some of those relationships. I mean, lighting, I can't say anything specific. I mean, Mountain Land Design, they're
Mhm.
a local appliance supplier here in Salt Lake. They've been great. Appliances have been a nightmare. I mean, I've got a house that just about 35 minutes south of where I live that they moved in. just right after New Year's, they still don't have their cooktop. And
Yeah.
we ordered it when we were excavating the foundation a
Wow.
year, over a year ago, about a year ago. Um, Still, yeah, and they're saying April to get their cooktop.
So let's talk about a little about timelines. Let's take it back and go like real construction here. So you're saying you ordered when you were excavating. So how many square feet is that house, or if there's any
Yeah.
topography or anything interesting, and what's your timeline right now for your builds?
So that house was, if I remember correctly, 5,400 square foot finished, but it had a 3,400 square foot basketball court indoor.
Wow. Nice.
Super cool. Yeah, super rad. I'm quite certain that the husband cared only about the basketball court.
That's
He
good.
was never part of any conversation, any walkthrough, any, I don't even think he was on many of the email chains for anything that had to do with the house. He was just like, you decide, and I just want to know, when will the sport court be done?
Well, one less decision maker. That's always
Yeah.
beautiful.
And we were coming down the, towards the end, and he's like, I'm getting these text messages. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Hope you're doing great. Hey, just curious if that basketball court could get done quicker than the house. No worries if it can't, but if it can, I'd love to start bringing the boys there for basketball practice. And,
Shut up.
so I did. I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and it was about a month, maybe month and a half before the house got done, the
No
court was
way.
done, and so they're there, we got Finnish carpenters doing tie-ins while there's a basketball team playing in the sport court.
That's awesome.
So we started that house between Christmas and New Year's, and they moved in just after New Year's. So call it, a little over 12-month build,
Okay.
8,000, almost 9,000 total square footage. I think that was a win in this current market, some of the challenges. It could have been faster if we didn't deal with what we dealt with, but I mean, I didn't get the pool done, I didn't get the landscaping done, which was kind of a bummer. Um, but it'll warm up here in 6 to 8 weeks, and we'll start getting back to work on that. But
Right.
um, so really, if you're in that, call it $1 million build cost, I think in Utah you should expect about an 8 to 10 month build time. You start getting to the 1.5 to 2 million, then you're kind of pushing that to certainly over a year, or about a year, I should say. Start getting into the $3 million build cost, and you should be planning on like 16 to 18 months. And all of that is subjective to what happens, because see, right now in our market, everybody, and it's probably, I don't know about for Arizona, but here everybody kind of was like, whoa, in the fall. It was like summer was winding down, school was starting, interest rates were going up. Everybody was just like, all right, we're pausing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had two houses that were essentially awarded to me. I had signed contracts, but they hadn't finished the plans yet, and they both hit pause, and they're not even working. They weren't stopped working on the plans. Then I had another one house that was awarded to me. He was cash, so he didn't really care about what was happening with the interest rates. However, he kind of saw like, well, if everybody's slowing down, maybe costs are going to come down. So I'm just going to wait and see what happens.
Interesting.
And then I have another one that's kind of had the same concept. They are tied to the interest rates because they will be borrowing money to build this house, but they also kind of thought, hey, I think prices are going to start coming down.
Yeah.
And I was right there thinking, it probably is. It's crazy expensive to build right now.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of need it to pull back a little bit.
Right. Right.
And everybody's so busy, quality is much more difficult to manage. Schedules are harder to hit. We're getting crews with 2 or 3 guys instead of 6 or 7 guys. Everybody's just spread really thin. So
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of made sense that, hey, I think a pullback needs to happen, and you hope it doesn't pull back too much.
Right. Right.
But a correction was needed. So I get asked this question, and I get asked the question all the time. What's going to happen this year? And it's like, well, nobody knows.
Crystal ball.
But I very much had thought, unless interest rates can get back down under 5, I think we're going to have a hard time with that townhome or entry starter single family, because it just makes such a difference on your monthly expenses, right?
Mhm.
And so it just changes the affordability. Now if costs come down, maybe that will change, but we still have a pent up demand. There's still
Right.
all these houses that are needed, just people can't afford them.
Mhm.
So I'm over here on team going, yeah, prices are going to come down, right?
Yeah.
We already saw it with lumber. It's back into a reasonable uh, price point. I mean, there's your annual concrete price increases like concrete and roofing, drywall. I mean, I think that stuff's all just gonna be more because it does it every year. Um, but now, as we're kind of, we're in February, and I've been having conversations with subcontractors, suppliers, clients that are, went on hold. Everybody's starting to say, oh, they want to go.
Mhm.
And so I wouldn't be surprised in our market if we get this spring surge where, a lot of houses start going. I mean, some of these home builders are offering, these production builders are offering the rate buy down. They're spending 15, $18,000 buying down somebody's rate so they can still get down to that, 3.5%, 4%. And that just changes the affordability for them.
Yeah, we are seeing here in Arizona, there is so much dirt work happening there. I mean, everywhere you're driving, they're clearing land. And so people are moving, and we don't have to wait for the snow like you do. I think it's let's see. Oh, it's 55 today. Well, it was 78 yesterday, honestly.
Jeez.
So
Coming
it's
down, Stephanie. I'm coming to visit.
I
I'm
know
coming back.
again. So no, but yeah, come on down. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And so we don't have to wait for the spring surge, or the thaw.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that people are moving. And there are a lot of production homes here in Arizona, and over in this area. We're up here in the north, or sorry, yeah, the north west side of Phoenix. But for you guys, again, waiting for the snow to thaw, I mean, is going to be what your indication is. Can you just tell me real quickly, and for people to give a little bit of context on, we keep talking about lumber because, we know about lumber, but if anybody's new, or they're just maybe somebody's listening that, just likes to wanted to know about sprucing up their guest room. And then all of a sudden here we are talking about new construction. Just talk about the trajectory real quick of what lumber used to be, and then this COVID stuff. And then now you said we're back getting comfortable again.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be able to give specifics without going and pulling those graphs, but if you can see my pen here, it went like this.
Well, it went straight up for anybody who's not watching on
Yeah,
YouTube. If you're
it
just
was
listening
like
and you're
forever we were doing this, and then it went like off. You can't even see it anymore. My camera, and then but it's come back down now,
okay.
right?
And so is it like pre-COVID levels, or is it just
I
regular?
believe so. I mean, I have an
Okay.
order. I have an order. I mean, I'm seeing bids come across, and a matter of fact, my lumber salesman, because I had two houses I'm building in Murray, which is just a little suburb here in Salt Lake, and I was scheduled the delivery for, I want to say it was a couple days before the end of September. And my salesman called me and he said, Alex, do you really need to have this lumber this day? I said, well, we're planning on starting. He says, well, if you push it 2 days, you're going to get October pricing. And I'm telling you right now, you want October pricing. I
Well,
said,
and
all
that,
right, all right. But yeah, so those houses, again, I don't have the specifics in front of me, but from what I remember, those cost me, $70,000 in lumber each house. I built these two. They're the same exact plan, same framer framing them. And so this was even, I mean, we weren't even spiked on lumber. We were on our upward trend. So it was not even where it went up to. We spent like 72, 74,000 for those. And the ones I'm building right now are in the mid 50s.
okay. Yeah.
So we're, I mean, you think about that for a house that costs $500,000 to build, $20,000. I mean, $20,000 is $20,000, right?
Right.
But in the scheme of things, that means if that house was, double the size, that's 40 grand.
Right.
So some of these bigger homes that I build, I mean, lumber can swing and it will really affect the budget. So again, I'd have to. I don't. I would say we're close to pre-COVID. Without pulling graphs, I'm not exactly sure, but it's way better than what it was.
Right. And that's another thing. No, and I'm not worried about the numbers. I just want to give a little bit of context because everyone, you know, blamed everything on COVID. And for us in interior design and talking about not only new construction and building and finishes, but also in furniture, we were having some serious, serious challenges with lead time. And it was real. I mean, it was real. So I remember like they stopped serving salads at McDonald's during COVID, and they said it was because of COVID. And we're like, what happened? Did the lettuce get COVID? I mean, why is there no lettuce? Why can't I get a salad when my kids get chicken nuggets because of COVID, right? But whatever, the whole supply chain issues, you know, they were very, very real. Some of them you can't really understand because you'd have to like trace back through whatever the real issue was. Like
Yeah.
there was a freeze in Texas that
Yeah.
affected foam, and foam is in everything. It was in, you know,
Yeah.
it's in all the cushions of our furniture. It's in hot tub covers. You know, there's foam. So it affected the pool industry and the furniture industry. And you just don't think about what all of these little parts and pieces are that make the whole big picture. But for us and for you in building, lumber was, you know, the price of lumber having gone up really made people think twice about building, and made them think twice about pausing their builds or even changing it, right? Weren't you changing some structures? You're like, is this going to be worth, you know, building stick frame?
Oh yeah, we were just all, I mean, all of it, right? You were trying to leave no stone unturned. I mean, you're talking about so much money
Mm-hmm.
that you had to look at your options. And on all of my projects, it was I think that people were fortunate that they could afford it. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't change like it, and some concessions were made, some of them weren't. They just came up with the money and paid it, right?
Right.
So and fortunately they could do that. A lot of these production builders, I mean, I don't know what verbiage they had in their contract. Shoot, I had one that I had to eat. I had to eat, some because you know, there was some specific lender requirements with the contract and instead of vetting it out, I just said, you know what, they had a really nice story, and I'm genuine about that,
Yeah.
like this client, their backstory and how they got this lot and what it meant to their family. I mean, I kind of bought into all that, so
You got bamboozled, huh?
I got bamboozled, and at the end of it, I
Such a
was,
softie.
yeah, and then it was just, yeah, that one kind of went sideways, but I persevered and I got through it, and they're in their house now, and they have a lot of equity in their house. Too much maybe, but
Well, that's the thing too about bringing up again what you said about, you know, things come up and it's just how are you gonna manage, you know, the issues. And when things come up for us later in the building phase, when it's on the finishes, right? You're like, oh hey, there's some site conditions we didn't think about or we didn't realize, you know, in the wall. We wanted to make this jog, or we wanted to you know, we want to put a niche in the wall. Oh, I remember one that we had on the Worthen project is, I think there wasn't an elevation of one of the shower doors, and it had, you know, an angled shower door because of the roof line, and we hadn't drawn that. It was just put the shower door here. We didn't need an elevation for it, or we had drawn it straight. And so, you know, you guys just give us a call and say, hey, this isn't how it is, you know, on paper, this isn't how it is in real life.
like this
We
is
say,
actually a
okay.
Harry Potter closet shower over here. It's not a real, it's not a real adult shower.
It's not a real adult shower, so manage that. But you know, so it's not how it is. But you know, then we fix it, right? And also from the interior design aspect, the design can't be precious, right? I can't say, well, it
Yeah,
has to be this way. If you change the
yeah,
angle, or if you have to do that, you need to make all these other changes because that's not going to
right.
work for me. The design can't be precious. It's got to, you've got to build, it's got to be buildable, and you've got to, you know, make it happen at the end of the day. So
For sure. Yeah, you gotta
yeah,
roll with the punches.
yeah,
I
well,
mean, and a lot of the times that's what makes this job fun is when you have the right perspective with
mhm,
everybody on the team that,
right,
maybe a problem is just an opportunity to
right,
make the project better. I mean, I
right,
can't tell you the difference in the whole way a project can go when you have a client that understands and can get behind, oh, this is a problem. Well, let's make something better out of it,
right,
versus the client over here. It's like, well, why do you catch it? Or why do you catch it?
right.
Blah, blah, and it just has all this negativity surrounding it versus the client that's like, oh yeah, well, this is, an opportunity to make it better.
Well, I have a perfect example of that was on the Worthen project where there was the air intake in the front of
Yeah,
the entryway, right? And it's this, huge grate, normally just a plain old metal, thing in the middle of the wall. It's like, oh, we don't want that. That's unsightly. Well, what did she do? We took the star emblem that was important to their family, and we had it custom made. Stefan made a custom air intake grate for that, right? And it matched the
right,
stained glass window that was upstairs,
right.
and replicated the design downstairs and made it a decorative feature, and maybe sometimes that's not the answer, but what an opportunity to,
Yeah,
again, bring in this family crest type symbol
yeah, yeah.
and repeat it in the home and continue on creating this custom vacation home for a family for we keep saying, in our case study, we just called it for generations to enjoy, because that was really the whole goal of the project, was to have a family retreat that
Hmm.
was central to, where all the grown family was.
And it's
So,
so fun. So I don't know if I told you, but we still do, because it's a second home. We go in there and we check. Especially like they'll let us know when they're coming into town. I'll
mhm,
send Jordan over. He'll go walk through, kind of check and make sure everything's good. We keep an eye on the furnace filters. We're, checking under the sink, make sure there's no water leaks.
yeah,
We're cleaning the rain gutters.
right.
We're doing all these things just to maintain this home because nobody's there all the time. Um, and every time I go in there, there's another wall with wallpaper. I've been making
she, she's so good. She sends me text message. She's like, look at what I did. Look at what I did. And she's so good with the decorating too.
yeah,
She
she
finished
is.
it up, and she
Yeah.
just she texts me the pictures still to this day. Right. And like that, it's the relationship, because you're in it with these clients for a year, months.
Yeah, well, and this is unique because they live there all the time, so they do need some extra support
Right.
than what's common. But yeah, I was just gonna say, she's running out of drywall. I don't know how much more
A girl
open
after
wall
my own
space.
heart. So if anybody wants wallpaper, call Stuart Design Co. And Alex will just do it. I know a lot of contractors are
Yeah.
like, well, we don't want wallpaper. That was me doing the contractor voice. But Alex will put in wallpaper. So I mean, again, and if you run out of wall space, just go to the ceiling. I mean, wallpaper everywhere, all the places. My poor husband. All right. Well, this has been fun talking about construction. I wanted to ask you, do you have anything exciting coming up, or what are you working on?
Lots of things. Um, but yeah, we're coming to Arizona.
Yep, I love it. So
So
Alex and I have had a great partnership working on projects. Again, we met, I mean, how long have we known each other? 10 years? It's
I
been
think
long.
Madison was just barely born when I
Yeah.
met you.
And she's
Yeah.
she's about 13. So we've known each other for far too long. We're dating ourselves. But when we used to live out there in Utah, and we worked on all these projects together, and it's just been so great. And so now we're going to work on some projects here in Arizona. So we're going to bring cross construction out here to build some houses and show everyone our stuff. I mean, honestly, I don't know, we just have such mutual respect for each other. But again, it makes it so it's easy, because I know that you guys are going to do a good job, right? And if there's any questions, you're going to call me and ask. And,
Yeah.
again, we put out the most amazing documents. No, I mean, we spent
Dean, you're not wrong.
so, my pride and joy are my construction documents, right? But if it's not on there, then I'm gonna beat myself up about it. But knowing that you guys will actually make it happen, and it's gonna be
Mhm.
beautiful in the end, because your craftsmanship really it's amazing. And so how exciting for us to bring it out here to Arizona, and let's expand cross construction, and
Well, I mean, the desert has a place in my heart. I mean, I
mhm,
lived in Tucson for 4 years, and I've missed it. I definitely got tired of the heat. So I needed to get out, come back to this winter climate. I needed the seasons. I missed the seasons.
right.
But I just find this is such a great opportunity because I'll send all this praise back to you that, we work so well together. You know what you're doing. You're professional. Um, and I love the idea of running my Utah office from March to November.
Yeah.
And then I'll come to Arizona from November to March.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's not going to be that simple, but
Yeah.
the desert is amazing, and you get Phoenix, Scottsdale area has a lot of good stuff going on, and
Mhm.
part of me just wants to be a part of that. And I want, to have I love to have my own second home there, and
Right.
so I love the idea of meeting some of the professionals down there. I love the Southwest style,
Mhm.
Southwest modern, I would say. You might correct me, but that's what I think I like.
I'm guessing that there's no Southwest in the Southwest modern that you are liking. You might like
Okay.
it. You might like an abstract picture of a cactus and in your modern home. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, we're coming down. I think, all things point that by late spring, early summer, we'll be licensed and company set up and looking for opportunities
We'll
to,
have an opportunity. Let's say that
yeah,
by the middle of 2023. So yeah, we have
yeah,
big plans here for the partnership. I'm excited about it. But cool. Okay, well, for our listeners, if they want to find you and look for Cross Construction and Alex Cross, how can they find you on the internet or on
yeah, we're
social?
on, yeah, crossconstructionsolutions.com is our website. Of course, Cross Construction Utah on Facebook as well as Instagram, so they can find us there. Um, yeah, we're actively out building our pipeline and building homes. So if there's a listener out there looking for a good GC and a good interior designer,
You got two on your
we got
team all
'em.
ready to go. All right, perfect. All right, well, thank you, Alex. We'll see you next time.
All right, yeah, thank you, Stephanie.